This is one of my favorites, and it's incredibly simple. It's from the Ontario Science Centre from an exhibition called Facing Mars, which is now traveling. And it's about what the human experience would be like if we went to Mars. And so when you enter the exhibit, here's how you go in. There's this sign that says, would you go to Mars? And you have to walk through the no gate or the yes gate. And you can see that above the no and the yes, there are the numbers that are registering how many people have voted that way today. So when you just walk up to this exhibit, you get a very clear snapshot of so many different things. First of all, it's framed around a personal experience. You could easily imagine them starting an exhibition called Facing Mars with a label that would say, would you go to Mars? And you'd think, but you'd sort of pass by it. You cannot pass by this, you must walk through it. So it forces everybody to really personalize and internalize the question, would I go to Mars? And then they experience the whole exhibit, sort of thinking, could I wait 3 minutes between every phone conversation, as I'm talking to my loved ones back on the earth? Or could I eat this food in this weird little container? All the different things on exhibit, you're personalizing them. But then also you're having this networked experience of seeing, most people would go to Mars. About 5 times as many as say no. They have these same gates at the end of the exhibit, and the numbers are about flipped. They could tell you on a label. Most people think they'd like to go to Mars, but in fact it's really hard. I'm sure they do say that on a label somewhere in here, but I didn't notice it, and it didn't make the impression on me that seeing these numbers did. So the visitor's data has power in terms of having an emotional, affective experience, but it also gives you this sense of how you connect to the other people in the exhibit. This is an image from a very strange experience that is quite social. It's at the Anne Frank House in the Netherlands. Has anybody been to Free to Choose and seen this exhibit? Yeah, okay, a couple people. So I'm curious if you had the same experience I did. So this is a room, you can't see it, it's actually quite dark, but there are lots of people sort of sitting on these couches, and it's a show. So on the left, there will be these 45-second provocations about freedom. And so this one has been about the question of whether Mein Kampf should be sold in bookstores or not. So they do a little show explaining the issue, and then they bring up this question, or this statement, you should just be able to buy Hitler's book, Mein Kampf. And then there are these little voting things interspersed among the seats where you can pick yes or no. Now here's what's really interesting, is that then it shows you the results, and it's impossible to read this. This says visitors now, and this says all visitors. So while I was in the room, a huge majority of the visitors said yes to this question. But then, so then we could sort of look around and say, we all kind of said yes. But then we could also see, boy, we're different from everybody else who's been here so far, because more people typically have said no than have right now. And so it creates this very interesting experience where you're quite close to the other people. It's about as close as some of you are at these tables. You're not talking to them. The show just keeps going. But you keep having this experience of, boy, I'm looking around the room, we voted this way, or people aren't like me, I voted in the minority. And then you're also having this more global experience of how do we, these small group of people in this room, relate to the larger group of people who use this over time. I personally found myself getting very frustrated in here because I felt there was a huge opportunity to take this to the next level, and after this screen, just put up 10 seconds that would say, turn to your neighbor and talk about how you voted. I remember standing next to somebody on a flag burning one and watching them say that no, flag burning should be illegal, and I had voted yes, and I could see them vote this way, but even I didn't feel socially comfortable to ask them, why did you say no? And so I feel like this is an example that is so close to being social, and yet they needed to design in just a little more to help people get over that barrier. But it's a very, very interesting networked voting experience. One of the hardest things when it comes to participatory experiences is that museums are very used to providing experiences for people. We're very used to saying, okay, this is a learning experience for you about X. And I think one of the problems that happens when we try and design participatory things is they sound fake, because we sort of sound like we're saying, oh, visitor, why don't you go ahead and give us your answer too, and we may not do anything with it, but this is a good experience for you. And people see through that and they feel pandered to when that kind of thing happens. And so I think one of the hardest jobs that institutions have is to try and find ways that participatory experiences are going to really help you make a better product. And that can mean a variety of things. Certainly with talkback boards, you know, the idea that these are part of the exhibition and they're going to be a valued part means that people think, oh, this is important and I should take this seriously, as opposed to if you're just dropping a comment in a box and you have no idea where it goes. So an example of this that I love that's quite intense is the Children of the Lodz Ghetto project at the U.S. Holocaust Museum. This is a digital project. It starts with an object. They have a physical album of thousands of names signed by school children in a particular Polish ghetto from right before the pogroms really started. 13,000 students signed it. And what they did is they said, okay, we have researchers here on staff, but we're not doing anything with this book right now. So instead we're going to try this experiment where we put all of the names out and we give people access to the databases we would use to try and track what happened to these people throughout the Holocaust. It's much more handheld than what a researcher would typically do. There's a lot of educational framing to help people understand how to do it. But basically what this research is about is typing in different spellings of a name to try and figure out, is this person in this directory? Were they at this camp? And that kind of research anybody can do. So they're sort of taking this Wikipedia model, starting with school groups, and now they're starting to branch outward. They're still in beta, I think, but you can register to help. And so you can log in and you can be part of this research project. Now, this is real work. It's producing a real product for the museum. However, only 1/4 of the research done by the visitors so far who've used this has been accurate. They're using a complicated vetting system, and they found that most of what visitors do is not very good. And so this has been a really interesting experience for them to say, okay, are we giving people an educational experience about doing research? And so that's positive, even if they're getting bad research out from our accuracy perspective. Or is this a problem because we really said to them, now the museum needs your help. We really want your help to make this thing happen. And do we need to be more strict about what people can do to make it a better research project? This is the kind of problem that happens when you start giving people real work, and this is something they're trying to figure out now.